Let's talk about how much money you would have to have in your investment portfolio in order to live comfortably off just your dividends. Quick disclaimer before I share this information, I am not a qualified financial advisor, so please seek professional advice if you require it. If you know anything about dividend investing, then you will know that dividend payments can change between different companies, and even just one company itself can alter its dividend payments year to year, or they could even just stop paying dividends altogether. And for this reason, it's pretty impossible to work out the question that we posed at the beginning of the video, but if we make some basic assumptions, we can get a rough idea of how much you would need to invest in order to live off your dividends. The first thing that we really need to do is to understand how much money per year we need to live on. Now, of course, this will completely change person to person, and it will depend on how much your mortgage is, whether you have any dependents, what sort of lifestyle in general that you want, and you need to take all of them factors into consideration when coming up with a yearly amount that you need to live comfortably on. Let's say that I've taken some time to be super diligent, and I've estimated that for a very comfortable way of life, I need to make about £30,000 per year. And remember, the point of this video is all about living off your dividends. So we are saying that we want £30,000 per year coming purely from our dividends. And let's just assume that in your investment portfolio, you have decided to have a really well diversified portfolio, and you are investing in stocks from all different sectors. And also you may even have some ETFs in there as well. Because remember, some individual stocks pay you dividends, but also some index funds and some ETFs can also pay you dividends. So just with the S&P 500, for example, which is of course a very, very popular option amongst investors, you can get the S&P 500 as both an income type of fund and also as an accumulation type of fund. So if you opt for the income, you will get dividends paid to you. And of course, some of your dividend investments will pay you a lower amount, but maybe a more stable option to have in your portfolio. But you will also maybe have some really high paying dividend stocks or ETFs in your portfolio as well. So with all that said, let's assume that annually your dividends are returning you an average of 4%. So we've said we want £30,000 each year available just from our dividends, and we are assuming a 4% per year dividend yield. So doing the calculations, this would mean that we would need an investment pot worth £750,000 to make this feasible. And I just calculated this by doing the income that you require, so £30,000, divided by the dividend yield that you're expecting. So in this case, 4%. And that gave me the rough estimate of £750,000. This number would fall to £625,000 if we were only looking to get £25,000 each year, and it would fall further to £500,000 if we were seeking a £20,000 dividend income each year. Also, if you were able to achieve a 5% dividend yield per year, which I think is completely possible, then the pot of money that you would need in order to withdraw that amount that we've discussed each year would fall. And it's actually quite crazy how much just 1% in dividend yield can really affect how much money you need in your pot. So just for example, if you were to achieve a 5% dividend yield instead of a 4% dividend yield, this would drop the amount that you needed to withdraw £30,000 per year by £150,000. There is another thing to think about here. So far, we've talked about getting a dividend income to cover your entire lifestyle, so to be completely financially free and purely rely on your dividend income. But of course, this may not be what everyone desires. Some people may just want to get a dividend amount each year to cover just their expenses, so just their food, bills and rent maybe. And then they may be more than happy to just do a little part-time job to just have some spending money and to have some money to go on holiday and whatever else they may desire. Or of course, you may want to cover your expenses and then work on something that you love that could possibly bring in a little part-time income or even a full-time income. It's really going to depend on what your desires are. A really important thing to say at this point of the video is the need to do this through a stocks and shares tax-free ISA. If you are doing this outside of a tax-free ISA, then you need to be prepared to pay tax on your dividends. As you probably know, here in the UK, we get up to £20,000 tax-free investments per year through what is called a stocks and shares ISA. I'm going to assume that if you're trying to seek financial independence through just your dividend investments, then you will find the most tax efficient way of doing so, which will probably be the stocks and shares ISA. So remember, if you're based here in the UK, you do not pay tax on dividends that are held within your stocks and shares ISA. But I do want to give you a quick example of how much more it would cost you if you were not to do it through this ISA, and if you actually had to pay tax on your dividend investments. So this next section is assuming that you are investing outside of your stocks and shares ISA and you will need to pay tax. If that's not the case for you, then just put me on double speed or something for the next few minutes whilst I just cover this quickly. In the UK, we currently get £12,570 of tax-free allowance, and then the tax rate moves up depending on your annual income. The basic rate band for tax for 2022 is for people earning between £12,570 per year and £50,270 per year. And people that fall within this category will be eligible to pay 20% tax. But it's important to note that the tax paid on dividends is slightly different from this. So going back to our earlier example, we are looking to achieve £30,000 per year from our dividend investments. Now, £30,000 will fall within the basic tax bracket that we mentioned just a minute ago. And people that fall within this tax bracket outside of the stocks and shares ISA will be eligible to pay 7.5% on their dividends. So this now means we need to account for an additional 7.5% on top of what we've already calculated. So now, unfortunately, we need to do £30,000 divided by the 4% dividend yield that we're assuming, and then we need to times it by the 7.5%. That will account for the tax that we will need to pay. So now our figure sits at £806,250. So a little bit more than that £750,000 that we mentioned earlier. But like I said, you can ignore this if you're planning to invest through your ISA. Right, so now on to the good stuff. Obviously, if you're a beginner and you're currently sitting at £0 invested, then me telling you that you need about £750,000 or even £500,000 to live comfortably off your dividends is probably really overwhelming, and quite honestly, you probably want to slap me in my face. That's understandable. But hang on, it's not all that bad. As Albert Einstein said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and those who understand it earn it. And compound interest and the power of compound interest is what really makes this whole thing about being financially free and living off your dividends actually seem somewhat achievable. For those of you who didn't know, the whole idea of compound interest is when you invest a particular amount and then that amount, that principal amount, earns you interest. And then that interest that it earns you is then reinvested back into the original amount. So your interest over time earns interest. So it's really, really powerful over time. So up until this point of the video, we have figured out how much we need to live comfortably each year. And like I said, this will depend on each person. And then with that information, we have then worked out how much we need in our complete investment portfolio, assuming a dividend yield of about 4%, to be able to withdraw that amount of money that you need each year. So like we said, if we wanted to withdraw £30,000 each year, assuming a 4% dividend yield, then we would need £750,000 in our investment portfolio pot. But how fast you can actually achieve this necessary pot really depends on how kind the market is to you, but also how much you can afford to invest each month. However, I don't want this video to be completely unrealistic. And I do understand that not everyone has a load of money each month left over to be able to invest. So for this reason, I'm going to now assume that we can invest £100 per month. Let's make the assumption that the market is returning 8% each year, which is very possible. So not every year it will return 8%, but on average you get an 8% return. And like I said, I am assuming you guys are smart investors and you have used your tax-free ISA allowance or the equivalent in your country. I'm going to now use an online calculator to work out how long it will take us to achieve our desired pot of money so that we can live just off of our dividends only. Okay, so first things first, I want to see how long it will take to reach my saving goals. As we've calculated, we are looking to achieve £750,000 in order to withdraw £30,000 each year, assuming a 4% dividend yield. We'll say the initial balance that we have is 100 and each month we can put in an additional £100. Like I said, we'll assume that the annual rate is 8% return, and let's click calculate. If we scroll down here, it tells us that in order to do this, we will have to be investing £100 each month for 49 years and 2 months. Now, if you start at age 20 or quite early on in life, this may actually be quite possible, and that may not really scare you. But for me, I don't really want to be living off my dividends in 49 years. I would want it a lot sooner than that. So now let's just have a look if we were to want to achieve £500,000, which was the case if we were happy to live off £20,000 each year. We'll keep everything else the same and let's press calculate. So this figure actually now drops down to 44 years, 3 months, which may be a lot more possible for some people, or at least seem a lot more possible. But just as another little experiment, let's leave our goal as 500,000, but now let's put our monthly amount that we can invest to £500, just so we can see the difference. Yeah, so it's absolutely crazy. If you're able to invest £500 as opposed to £100, the amount of time that you need to achieve your £500,000 goal will take 25 years, 6 months. So that's pretty impressive actually, if you just wanted to live purely off your dividends. I really hope that this video opened up your eyes to what you would need in order to live purely off of your dividends. It can be quite scary, but also for some people, this can be really, really exciting. Let me know your thoughts on this below in the comments. And of course, if you want me to cover any particular topics, again, just drop a comment. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you really soon in the next video.